Hey guys, on today's episode, we're gonna be working on my Audi R8. Now I've driven it all summer and most of the winter and it's completely filthy underneath. There's salt everywhere. So we're gonna be doing a full winter wash. What originally was gonna be a winter wash on the R8 turned into a 4-week-long restoration because I found a bit of rust or oxidation on the hood in the process.
We got a little corrosion over here.
So what you're about to see is me completely losing my mind and making this car absolutely perfect because there was one little spot that was just not right. Enjoy the episode. Done.
With this?
Yeah, because I'm running out of paint until next week. Until next week. Big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this episode. More on this later. Step one is to get the R8 up on the lift and remove the wheels. Now, Audi has plastic covers over the lug nuts that need to be removed with this black plastic puller that actually comes along with the car with a wheel lock and key in the front. Steve! This is Larry. That's why we do that. I have to use a sledgehammer to get like a $1 zillion wheel off. Not a good look. When the crusty wheel finally came off, the suspension had been beaten up over the winter and is in need of some major love. Next, I removed what feels like 100 screws holding the flat under tray, which of course, it was holding pounds of dirt and leaves and junk, all kinds of rocks trapped against the bottom of the frame. So it's not a good look. We needed to remove these. There's the under tray. Oh. Well, we got one that we stripped. With everything out of the way, it's now time to wash a season's worth of driving in the Northeast. That's a clean under tray. Okay, the underneath is now clean. All the sand and salt has been removed. We're gonna focus on the wheel wells, and you can see there's a bit of corrosion in here, which makes total sense. It's the Northeast. I drive this all the time, but we do need to maintain it. So to get the corrosion off, it's not that big of a deal. You can use steel wool like this. You can use a wire brush, skinny ones, little ones here, and you can go in, go back and forth like this, and in 2 seconds, you can see it's right back to where it was. So what we need to do from there is to protect it. To do that, especially on the bolts that are super rusted, that drives me crazy, we're gonna use a bit of rust fix. It's gonna shoot it out black and it'll protect it for a year. You can go back and drive this. I don't like putting these away, let's say for the year. I wanna go and drive it all the time, but you do need to maintain it. Correcting the corrosion, it's not that big of a deal. Just do 1 or 2 steps. It takes an extra, I don't know, an hour or so, and it'll look pretty good. It'll be safe, more importantly. You can continue driving. With the underneath clean, it's now time to start the top side power washing, then cover the paint and body in ammo foam and boost anti-salt. With the paint now still wet, I used hot water to soften up the clear bra glue on the very front part of the car and slowly peel back the original bra from 2009.
Hot water and a towel is a better method over just using steam. You need the warmth to stay on the bra as long as possible, and steam evaporates super quick. So stick to the hot water to remove old PPF, and then use the thick towel. It's just a way to keep that water from sliding off the paint too fast. After removing the PPF on the front, I found a tiny little spot of oxidation that's going to need to be addressed by my guys at J&B after I finish cleaning the suspension and add seasonal protection.
Okay, it's time to talk Squarespace. Squarespace gives you a powerful and beautiful online platform on which to create your website. Create a community within your Squarespace website with a fully integrated commenting system that supports threaded comments, replies, and even likes. Now, what makes this super cool is you can display posts from your social media to your website, and of course vice versa, from your website back to social media so that your followers can share it too, like this one here.
Connect with your audience and generate revenue through gated members-only content, manage your members, send email communications, and leverage audience insights all in one easy-to-use platform. You can extend Squarespace's already powerful e-commerce capabilities with Squarespace extensions. These are third-party tools that can help manage inventory, promote products, streamline bookkeeping, and reconcile and even file sales tax while shipping items across the globe.
Okay, with that, be sure to visit squarespace.com for your free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use promo code squarespace.com/AMMONYC for 10% off your first purchase of a domain or a website. With that, it's time to get back to the R8. Okay, at this point, we've sprayed the bolts in Rust Fix and we're letting it dry. Now what we're gonna do is use a product called New Hampshire Oil Undercoating. This particular product is Mouse Out, provided by these guys. Now, the reason is I saw a couple of acorns.
Oh, that is next level disgusting.
Kind of jammed up in the areas, which is making me nuts. Now, this is dual purpose. What I mean by that is it's corrosion prevention. So we're gonna spray it all on the undercoating, not the bolts, because we got another thing going on there. But everywhere else, we're gonna spray it on. It's gonna prevent rodents from going in there because it smells like peppermint and have these other oil additives in there. At the same time, it's going to add a bit of oil to the undercoating to prevent future corrosion. So does it last forever? No, but I do think it's a great seasonal thing, especially when everything is open like this. So we're going to spray everything except the bolts with this right here and keep the mouse out.
Next, I cleaned the under tray before reinstalling it on my car to protect my freshly scrubbed suspension. Then we headed off to the body shop. Bright and early the next morning, I loaded the R8 on the Grand Prix Motors flatbed and then headed down to J&B Bodyworks in Mount Vernon for a little bit of surgery.
How's it going? Long time no see.
Yeah, man.
Everything good?
Yeah, there she is.
There she is. What's going on with her?
This right here.
Aha, it looks like we got a little corrosion over here.
It's weird though, isn't it? Because it's aluminum, so it's not rust. But if you look closely, you can actually see the paint start to flex. See it? Flexing a little bit.
Yeah, so with aluminum, you won't see rust. What you actually see is corrosion. So that's what happens when you have steel and an electrolyte meet with the aluminum. And you can see here, it actually looks like it's getting underneath a different layer and starting to lift a little bit over here.
Yeah, there's some on the front here, there's some on the sides. So it's kind of all over the place. And then one other spot I want to show you back here. So during one of our huge storms, I had a garbage can parked next to it. I mean, the garbage can was far away, but then the storm blew it and whacked the side of it, and I had a mental breakdown. And then,
handle?
Yeah. Can you, on a side note, can you just order it? When I bought it, it was like this, driving me crazy right now. Once I'm done with this, I'm gonna polish it to the end of its life, and then we're gonna clear bra the whole thing clear and be done.
With this?
Yeah, because
I'm
running out of paint until next week.
Outfit. Where's this, Lulu? So we brought the car inside, cleaned it off, and what we actually found was the corrosion was caused by some razor blade marks left behind by the old PPF installers. So these old installers that put the film on before you bought the car got a little too aggressive with the razor blades, cut into the paint, and that led for an access point for steel particles and electrolytes to bond with the aluminum, thus creating corrosion.
So with that, George disassembled the hood to get it ready for sanding and priming. Now, George is the mastermind behind my Porsche 964 paint removal, sanding, and then reassembling a few years ago. Crazy talented technician. First, George cleans down the area with prep salt to make sure everything is contaminant-free. Next, he sands down the affected area with 320 grit to bring the refinished surface level below the razor cuts in the paint. After that, he uses 120 grit sandpaper on the corrosion spot to completely eliminate it. With all the damage now gone, George mixes polyester filler to raise the area around where the corrosion used to be to level out the surface for an undetectable repair. Once the polyester is dry, it's then sanded with 180 grit, 220, 320, and then 400 to step back the scratches and prepare it for the next step, which is primer. Once the car is in the booth, cleaned, tacked off, and then sealed to the correct shade, making sure you're checking the air pressure, it's crucial throughout the process, and in some cases it actually may change the color of the paint. Spraying at higher pressure or even lower pressure will result in the metallic laying down different, causing it to look lighter or darker. So this process is very important. As the base coat process begins, Francesco will apply 2.5 coats of silver at about a 70% overlap with 10 minutes of flash time in between each coat. The last coat, being what they call an effective coat, is spraying at lower pressure and further away. By not following this precise procedure, it actually results in blotchy, or what they technically call mottled metallic. In other words, it's not going to look good. Before the very final coat, he turns off all the lights in the booth to check out his work, and he uses a SATA True Sunlight. Now, this is going to show all the imperfections that he may have missed that you weren't really going to see until you pull the car outside in direct sunlight, and by then, it's too late. So this trick right here is really a great QC process. At this point, it's time to lay down the last layer of clear coat. First, he inspects his work one last time before applying 2 coats at a 70% overlap, resulting in a perfect factory finish. Finally, after all of that, the paint is then polished and ready for pickup.
Whoa, look at this thing.
Hey, what's up? What's going on?
This thing looks crazy.
Looks good?
Yeah.
Nice seeing you.
Oh.
So yeah, as we started the process of painting it, we went around the car and noticed the car had a few little rock chips, probably from track use or daily driving, whatever.
Yeah.
So we ended up sanding down the edges of all the panels and blending all the adjacent panels. So we basically repainted the entire nose and the doors.
Unbelievable. This looks so clean. This was beaten up.
Yeah.
So is this.
As you see here, everything's level. We have perfect color match because we ended up blending into all the panels and it just looks great.
And more importantly, my little spot of rust.
Exactly. We're all good. Back to 100%.
Love it.
The next day, I got her dropped off at the studio and immediately began the process of removing the matte, or what Expel calls stealth clear bra, on the carbon fiber side blades. Now, I put this on years ago when I wrapped the car in a battleship gray type color with my friend CK Wraps in my garage. At the time, the shiny carbon fiber just didn't look right with that particular wrap, but now I wanted to shine deeper than the day that the car was built, so more hot water and patience is needed. Underneath, love marks and swirls, not good. So I used a 2-pad in 1 liquid method and it came out perfect. Super simple to do, and the depth is now where it needs to be. As for the rest of the car, I repeated the same steps I used on the blade to get that last 2 or 3% of shine on both the paint, the carbon fiber engine, the side blade of course, and even the interior carbon fiber trim pieces before I clear bra'd the entire car. Okay, just on a quick side note here, after a full car polish, and especially before you add clear bra, you must rewash all of the seams and creases and crevices, that sort of thing, to release every bit of trapped dirt to avoid it sticking to the bra during the application. And you stare at it forever underneath the PPF, it'll drive you nuts, so do the work now. With the outside now clean, I then cleaned up the interior with lather, especially the original leather steering wheel that has a tendency to absorb hand oils. When the leather gets this old and is cleaned on a regular basis like I do, you need to be extra careful not to remove the color of the interior. So work extra gentle until you feel comfortable enough with the integrity of the material. Otherwise, it may come off unexpectedly. The skinny seam and stitch brush is ideal on sensitive string stitching, and notice the matte texture now on the steering wheel. It's much better and there's no shine.
Pretty cool stuff, huh? I don't know, your gas pedals. He's like, ooh, and I'm like, really? Oh, can't get it.
While I was on the inside of the car, I also changed up the stock shifter knob to a LatheWorks custom-made stainless steel sphere in brushed silver finish. The owner of the company, Chris, makes them out of blank cores. He lays them, then sands them until they're perfect. If you're looking for an old school manual machinist to hand cut unique parts for your car, or pretty much anything, bottle openers, badges, VIN plates, knobs, wedding rings, Chris is unreal. He's the real deal. I'll put a link in the description. Bright and early the next day, we installed Expel Ultimate Plus with the help of a bit of hot water to soften the material so that it would stretch easier before locking it into place and protecting the perfect paint underneath it. While we were covering every panel in Expel, Brian and the boys at Speed Sport Tuning were installing my new Vredestein Ultrac Vorti Pluses on my black stock R8 track rims and old tires. I'm in love with Vredestein from when I installed them on my Macan GTS all those years ago. Absolutely amazing car, and even better with those tires on. The Vorti Pluses are part of their max performance summer tire ranges, and they're rated at 186 miles an hour and designed to deliver maximum grip and steering precision for high performance sports cars like the R8. I also got a set of these for my buddy Pete with the Toyota Supra on last week's episode. Now, Vredestein is the best tire brand you've never heard of, despite it being over 100 years old and actually designed by the Giugiaro Ital design. Now, Giugiaro is responsible for designing some of the most iconic cars in the world. The BMW M1, the DeLorean, that's just to name a few. The guy is crazy, and the sidewalls are gorgeous. With the Vorti Pluses now road force balanced, Mark came over to help me decide what size spacer would actually fit in the fenders with the JRZs, lowering the overall ride height. After a bit of eyeballing and measuring, we tested a few different sizes with his kit and landed on 10mm up front and 15s in the rear for a meaty stance and ordered them for overnight delivery.
You're gonna pretend to be helpful?
No,
Oh.
I'm just gonna say goodbye.
Absolutely.
Now, while all this is going on, Juan Maldonado, tinter extraordinaire, was in the studio to install Expel Prime XR Plus, 70% on the windshield and 30s on the sides to match the black rims and the side blade just a little bit better. Incredibly clean, precise, and fussy. Plus, he uses a blowtorch to heat shrink the tint and then sands down the edges with a file for perfect exact fit. So he's my kind of crazy. Also, check out his button trick to avoid cutting the windshield by mistake. He forgot his button, so he just cut it off his shirt and used it. The guy's nuts, and I love it. Later that evening with the tints drying, Juan from J&B came up to the studio to install the matte painted AUDI badges using a laser level, but check out his trick. He uses a fixed center point, in this case it's my factory license plate holder, then puts a piece of masking tape across and then folds it in half to quickly get the halfway point, then uses the laser on that halfway point for a precise middle line on the hood, then attaches the matte AUDI rings. Super cool. I definitely need to use this in the future. He repeated the same steps on the rear as well. Super cool. And for $50 to $100 using a laser level, you avoid a massive headache. Now, with everything in place, I installed Reflex Pro in 2 layers on top of the bra, waited for the rainbow, and gently buffed clean. When I was done, the depth was insane. I've never seen anything this shiny before. Incredible. Next, I coated the trim in Frame Pro. You can see here the 50/50. Now, the big thing is I did this almost a year and a half ago when I was testing the product. I just wanted to see what would happen just for prolonged use. Nothing here. Obviously, I did it over here. Now, if we jump over to the other side, there's nothing on it. So I'm gonna put frame on it, but I know that this lasts a very long time because of this. So we're gonna do the rest of the fins. There's fins here, and then obviously 2 more fins in the back, a bunch of trim underneath here. This thing's gonna look absolutely crazy. At this point, I coated the calipers, I cleaned the wheels now that were back from Speed Sport, polished them up with a 3-inch pneumatic, and then coated both the front and the back with Gillette Pro. Before installing the spacers that just arrived, I added a bit of grease to the hub to make life easier of getting them on and off for future cleaning. Then I got them in place with extra long black bolts that come in the spacer kit to match the wheel color. With all 4 shoes now on, I added a bit of mud dressing to the vortices, and the stance is so much more aggressive. I love it. On a quick side note, both the 964 and the R8, when they're up on the lift and they come back down, because they have JRZ suspension, I like to give it a little bit of a shake to settle out the suspension compression so it seats itself at normal ride height. With everything now settled out, look how it fills the wheel wells. It's so exciting, it looks amazing, and the before and after is shocking. After 12 days of labor, it was totally worth it. Only thing left to do is to go for a ride. My dream car is a 2009 Audi R8 V8 with the manual gated shifter in ice metallic silver with the carbon fiber side blade, carbon fiber interior and engine package, black interior trim, all with less than 15,000 miles. It's been on my vision board since 2008. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Please subscribe and click the notification button to find out when our next episode airs. See you next time.
This car is a one-owner car, 23,000 miles. It is the holy grail for BMW collectors, guys who appreciate BMWs from the golden era. And this car has been sitting here for 10 years.